everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. How is everyone doing? How were your Thanksgivings? Somber? Seems somber this year. I don't know what it is. Don't know what could be going on that might make it a somber affair. That no matter how many mashed potatoes and butterflake rolls you jam into your maw, doesn't make it feel that much better. But you know what does make things feel better? Why, today's episode with Jordan Morris. If you don't know who Jordan is, I'm going to read you his bio right now. Originally from Orange County, writer and comedian Jordan Morris attended UC Santa Cruz, where he met his future podcasting partner, Jesse Thorne. And in 2007, the two started one of the longest-running podcasts still going, Jordan, Jesse, Go, on the Maximum Fun Network. I have been on that show a couple times. As a writer, he's worked on everything from At Midnight to Earth to Ned, and has also penned 2 graphic novels. The first, the Eisner-nominated Bubble, was based on his scripted podcast series of the same name, and his latest, Youth Group, a YA horror comedy, is available now for pre-order and will be out next year. I highly recommend it. Guys, folks, people, you gotta go pre-order it now. Apparently that really helps Jordan out. You gotta go pre-order it. It's got the Andy seal of approval. Pre-order it and then get a surprise. I pre-ordered the latest collection of Saga a month or 2 ago. It's arriving soon in the mail. I got an email about it. Great surprise. But you know what wasn't much of a surprise? How much fun it was to talk to Jordan, because I know Jordan. He's a good dude. And we do get into it. A lot about growing up in the OC, a lot about his dad and mom, and, you know, the same kind of armchair Freudian stuff that I truck in on this show. But also, it was so much fun to talk to Jordan. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you do, why not check out other episodes of Beginnings? This is your first episode. I've been doing this for 14 years. What I like to do here in the beginning is a little recommended if you like my talk with Jordan. Maybe you'll like my talk with some other people from the world of comics. Like, just last week, I talked to Matt Fraction. I've also talked to Matt Fraction's writing partner on Sex Criminals, Chip Zdarsky. I've talked to Kieran Gillen, Greg Rucka, Cy Spurrier, Jeff Lemire. This is just the last, year and a half or so. Or Jordan's a comedy writer. I just talked to Mike Sweeney, who was the longtime head writer for Conan. Just a couple months ago, Ben Edlund, the creator of The Tick, was on. Bobcat Goldthwait. So check out those episodes. If you like what you hear, subscribe to the show. I'm on social media, wherever you can find me, at Andy Beckerman. Coming up, I just talked to Jonathan Lethem, one of my favorite writers. It was great. So stay tuned for that. But for now, let's talk to Jordan. Did you ever think, not to start here, but did you ever think you would watch the slow collapse of everything around you in your lifetime?
I did, yes. I was a very pessimistic child, and I was always, I'm like, any day now, here it comes, and now I'm feeling justified.
Wait, were you really? I know we've talked before about you being a bit boy, so I don't know if you're yes-anding me or...
No, I am yes-anding you, yes. Yeah, I know. I wonder a lot about, does everyone in every time period just think that? Does everyone just go like, well, this is it. This is the worst it's ever been. Or is this a uniquely weird and fucked up time? I don't know.
I guess I'm not saying it's the worst it's ever been. I'm saying that it's slowly collapsing around us. And I didn't think I would see all the, it didn't feel this way. I think we're like close to the same age. It didn't feel this way in the 80s and 90s. It didn't feel like things were like, it didn't feel like society was just putting up like turning clothes signs on every service. Do you know what I mean? Like you're walking past the hospital and they're just putting up a, we'll be open tomorrow maybe sign.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Is it that, society is constantly collapsing since it became society, or yes, have things been accelerated for some reason? I mean, this cold take, is it just like, well, there's the internet, so we all know all the bad shit all the time, and it just feels like that. I don't know.
I do know. I think.
You know.
I think so.
Please tell me, because I don't know.
So I think that because that's that thought I've always had, right? Is it's not unique, like you said, cold take. Is it just that we're aware of a lot of things now? It's like no. I think we were aware of certain things. I think the post-war period, right, was there was a certain vibe, right, and that vibe has dissipated. It died in the 70s, and we're just kind of like crawling around with the maggots in the corpse of society. And I don't think it's just that we know the stuff now. I mean, we know like awful fucked up shit was going on. Do you know COINTELPRO or MK Ultra? I mean, there was fucked up things going on in the 60s and 70s.
History, it's full of fucked up shit. That's why I don't want my kids to learn it. I don't want my kids to feel bad. So I'm teaching them about George Washington, the New Deal, and that's it.
Thank you. I'm not even doing the New Deal. That kind of socialist commie bullshit.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I guess the New Deal implies that something was wrong to where they needed a New Deal. So let's not even cover that with the kids.
Washington, Ulysses S. Grant, we're done.
The two greats, yes.
But like, okay, I think it's the fact that daily services, that the things are getting more difficult. Like, you could see a doctor pretty quickly when you were a kid, I assume. And now it's just like, it's more and more protracted, the process. And there are a lot of people who just can't see a doctor where maybe they could have 10,
healthcare
15 years ago.
Whack. Yeah, a good. Again, not something I kept track of as a kid, but I can certainly say that as an adult looking for healthcare services, it would be nice if things were better.
Yeah.
They're hard and weird. Have you ever tried to if you ever got a new health plan and then tried to find a doctor who would take that health plan? There is no one who will give it to you straight. You have to talk to 10 different people and you will get 10 different answers, and then you will go to a doctor and maybe they will just say, we don't take your health plan. That will be $5,000.
Yeah. And cops weren't building their own cities when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yes. They didn't have tanks. They have tanks now.
So I guess what I'm wondering, though, I didn't bring this up on purpose. It's just sometimes when I open the white hot room in my mind, that's what spills out, because that's all that's the energy that's in there.
Sure. Sometimes it's fun new recipes. Things to do with the slow cooker, and then sometimes...
Let me tell you, I'm making this smoked paprika, charred cauliflower over a pesto fettuccine.
Hey, that's going to be good. See, things are okay.
Yeah.
How bad can society be if we have access to, wonderful meatless options like that?
Sure.
trying to keep it positive.
But I am curious.
Yes.
You grew up in the OC, right?
I did.
And you called it the OC, just like everyone else, right? Before the TV show?
No, that's funny. We did not call it that. And I have maybe stubbornly never watched an episode of the OC, the show about Orange County, the Southern California county where I grew up. But yeah, it seems like people are kind of reevaluating the OC and saying maybe it was kind of a classic.
Oh, so. I loved it when that was where I first felt seen, because whenever on TV did I see a meek Jewish man into comic books and indie rock?
Right.
Never. That was the first time. And I'm like, oh, me on TV. This is representation.
It matters. It matters.
But
we comic book dorks need to see ourselves in media.
I am curious about your experience growing up there, because I would assume that it would produce you a sunny kind of positive person.
Yeah, Orange County is fucking weird. So when I was growing up there, I guess I didn't realize that it was like a conservative stronghold. I think my, family thankfully no one became a Trump wacko, but I think everybody was, a little bit more on the conservative side with their, politics and voting. Now, thank goodness, everybody is a, sensible Biden voter and everybody's getting their vaccinations. But I think at the time, it was kind of the era of like Rush Limbaugh and stuff. And I definitely remember like, Rush Limbaugh being on, the radio around the house and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think I didn't realize that it was like that. And it's kind of that thing we were talking about. I don't know if it has gotten to be that gradually or if it was always like that and I kind of just didn't know. But yeah, I, for the most part, had a pretty good time growing up in Orange County. It was the 90s, so like, I was there for the third wave ska boom. I was there for... all those great skate punk bands. We had
Skank and
Disneyland
Pickle.
passes one year, and we would just go to Disneyland and kind of fuck off. So yeah, Orange County was a pretty nice place to grow up. I know now that it is, kind of a, loaded place that houses a lot of wackos. But as far as places to grow up, it was pretty nice.
What part of it? Because you weren't like the Seth Cohen Richie part, right?
No, I was in Mission Viejo, a pretty down the middle, middle class suburb, tract house, a lot of chain restaurants. I think we were within spitting distance of Coto de Casa, which is like a big gated community where I think some of the like housewives shows take place. So I think, you maybe would occasionally go to like a birthday party in a big McMansion or something like that. And yeah, there would be just a kid in class whose family had boats or something. So yeah, not something that I like. That kind of mega wealth is not something that I like interacted with a lot, but like it was there and you totally saw it.
Were you self-aware in that like you could tell there was a quote unquote difference between your class and these people?
Not
these people in quotes.
Yes, these types. Not really. I was like, my family had some money issues growing up and some, financial instability stuff. But for the most part, I was a pretty like happy kid who wasn't worried too much about like, where will the food come from? And, will I have enough money for school lunch and stuff like that? So I was lucky in that regard. I think, our family had pretty standard family financial woes. But yeah, and I never really this is a bad comedian origin story because I'm supposed to say like, yeah, they spit on me and they pushed me because I didn't have the right shoes. I know, I would fucking tank on Marin. But yeah, I was lucky not to feel too othered by the hyper rich kids. But I'm sure there were a lot of people who did.
Was it that your parents protected you from this stuff so you didn't know what was happening? Or was it that, well, I don't know. I don't know. Did they protect you or did you know what was happening and you were just like,
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think things were like, we're just pretty happy. Again, I'm a terrible podcast interview. Things were pretty good when I was a kid.
No, there's nothing.
Yeah, I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to be honest here. But yeah, no, I think that my mom, at least, my dad was a weird dude who we may or may not get into. But my mom was a really like nice, reasonable, salt of the earth person from a very like nice, reasonable family, and I think did a pretty good job of like making sure we felt happy and safe and secure, but didn't feel like we weren't getting to do stuff. And yeah, I don't remember growing up with a lot of rich kid jealousy, thankfully. Yeah, and I know like if you grew up in like a big city, that was probably way more pronounced. Like if you grew up in New York or San Francisco or something, you probably did see yes, the classes probably did mingle a lot more, and it was probably like way more pronounced. But yeah, for me, it was you went to that occasional rich kid birthday party, and it's like, oh wow, there's pony rides here and a guy pretending to be Sergeant Slaughter. This is next level. That was actually one that was a lot of fun. I definitely remember the Sergeant Slaughter birthday party.
Was it Sergeant Slaughter from wrestling or Sergeant Slaughter from G.I. Joe?
That's the question. That's for our generation. Sergeant Slaughter, Mr. T, Pee Wee Herman, these were all characters that seemed to transcend media, and you're like, where is this guy from? Like, who is Mr. T? Is he a rapper? Is he a wrestler? Is he a cereal? What is Mr. T?
That's
and yeah, Sergeant Slaughter was totally one of those characters because he was a guy and then he was in G.I. Joe anyway.
I found, because the 80s was when meta stuff kind of exploded into public consciousness.
Yeah.
I used to teach a philosophy of art class, and in the middle of it, I remember teaching this like section on like meta stuff and like how that has become something that was in like, you know, postmodern art and then, you know, pushed its way through like a tumor into like pop art and stuff like that. Because I don't know how old you were when like Gremlins 2 came out, but in Gremlins 2, they're in the middle of the film, and I remember seeing it in the theater. But like, no matter where you are, it then strikes this weird moment where the film stops because the gremlins have gotten into the theater supposedly you are in. Mm-hmm. And then the manager of the theater goes and gets Hulk Hogan, who is watching the film somewhat in the theater that you are in.
I think the gremlins want to see Snow White. Is that right? They want to see like a Disney cartoon.
That is, because that's what they were watching in the first one.
And right. Yeah.
There's a callback to that. But there's this meta moment where it like takes you out of the film on purpose.
You're right.
And this used to be a thing that was in like 70s, like John Barth, like 70s, like postmodern literature that's suddenly being used in,
it's Brecht. It's the V effect in this, PG-13 puppet movie.
Yeah. But I wonder if that's like, if we're all weird in some way, because that's when these things started filtering into pop culture in some way. I don't know. There's a half-assed theory.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. Like it we all have access to so much information about the pop culture we consume now, right? Like when you go to see a Marvel movie or whatever, like you've already been reading about the Marvel movie for 2 years, you know about all the casting drama, you know that there were reshoots. And again, this is, when I say we, I mean, two online nerd folks. So, it's like you're ingesting a piece of pop culture, but because media is like it is, you've kind of already read about all this stuff. And like, if when you go to see Killers of the Flower Moon, you know that, Martin Scorsese thinks Marvel movies are theme park rides. And you're kind of viewing it with that lens. And it's like, oh, is anything here taking a shot at modern cinema? So, yeah, I think because it's easy to be a pop culture obsessive, like it is a little bit harder to get just lost in a story and also those meta things hit harder. Like that's why there's so many fucking stories about the multiverse now. It's like, yeah, it's an interesting sci-fi concept, but also it's an excuse to bring back Andrew Garfield, because we all know that his Spider-Man movies didn't do as good and he's redeeming himself. So yeah, it does seem like maybe when we're looking for those Easter eggs or looking for those meta text things where, we're not losing ourselves in stories like we could before. And yeah, maybe it is like maybe Gremlins 2 started it all.
But it was just interesting because you said, like, is it a cereal? You are in some way eating Mr. T. Not really, but in some way,
yes.
Or whatever. Super Mario. We had Super Mario Brothers. We had this cereal. It was half of it was Super Mario Brothers, half of it was
Zelda.
Link, half Zelda. Yeah. And in some way,
those were the days.
you're literally consuming. You are literally becoming a consumer of this thing that you have enjoyed, either first as a video game, then as a cartoon,
right
after school with Captain Lou Albano, right?
yeah.
And now as this food, and it really, like, obviously before there were commercial tie-ins before this, and
sure,
people sponsor things, and Cary Grant, did a commercial for shoe polish or whatever. I don't know. I'm not making that up. But
yeah, Fred Flintstone did a cigarette ad. That actually
Wait, is that
exists.
true?
I think. Yeah, that exists. Winston cigarettes, I think. And you have Fred going like, "Oh, Winston tastes good, like a cigarette should. Yabba dabba doo." And he like takes a huge drag and blows it in Pebble's face. That last thing doesn't happen, but
they should have been forced to do in the 90s an anti-cigarette ad where you see him getting chemotherapy for
right, yes. Fred having to smoke through a hole in his larynx.
Yabba dabba doo.
And he has to put a hermit crab up to his larynx to talk, and then it says, "It's a living."
Okay.
This is how I talk to.
So the thing is, when I was younger, and even still today, when I was not in my own economic class, I was very aware that I was not in my own economic class. But you seem to just be like, they have ponies and boats. And
sure.
It's whatever. I don't have ponies and boats, but whatever.
Maybe perhaps one day we'll have ponies and boats. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was nice. I was lucky in that way to where I was, pretty comfortable and, didn't think about like class on a day-to-day basis.
Was it that okay, I really got to ask then, what led to you being so, not just about class, but like so kind of like even-keeled, period?
Oh, why am I so even-keeled? Well, good question. I mean, I think I don't know if this comes across about me, but something I have discussed a lot in therapy is that I'm a big like worrier. I like, I worry a lot, and maybe this is tied to like, having a family where like financial things came up a lot. So like I'm like. I'm pretty cheap, and like to get me to spend money is always a little bit. I always feel a little bit of anxiety, like booking a plane ticket or getting a hotel room that's not the absolute cheapest hotel room I could find. So I think I worry a lot about that, and like being in the entertainment industry. Hasn't been great for that because I like worry a lot about job security. I know like everybody in the business does, but like I am realizing, after X amount of years of therapy, like, oh, I picked a really wacky career for a guy who panics about money and stability a lot. So if I'm masking that, good on me. But yeah, so I think like worrying and doom scrolling in my brain is something that I like struggle a lot with. So I don't, if I come off as even keeled and chill, I'm glad, I'm happy to. But I think a lot of that I also have something going on where. I think I don't want to like burden people with my problems, and I think I always, you want to be the guy who's fun, who's cracking people up, and I think like, that comes with like growing up in a family where you're kind of the peacemaker, which I think I really was. So I think that. Yeah, I think I do keep a lot of my worrying to myself. I think I do a lot of it in my brain, and it's something that I've had to like kind of work at, like not just in my friendships, but in like relationships, like letting people know when I'm worried, letting people know like why I feel weird and, why I'm having trouble sleeping or something like that. Because I definitely don't do it naturally. So I think I think take our conversation at the top there. You were like, hey, the world's kind of fucked, huh? And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's fucked. I don't, I think I always revert to the positive position, not just because I generally enjoy positivity, because I do think I task myself a little bit with being kind of a peacemaker, or the one who's like, all right, like, let's settle down. Let's look at, and I think that just, maybe comes from growing up in a family where that was my role.
Okay, so is it repression, or are you channeling this energy into something healthy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I keep it inside more than I should, and I'm working on it. And I think I've gotten better, about, being real with people and letting people know when something's wrong or I'm panicking or I'm worried. But, yeah, I don't know. But I think hopefully I think learning to compartmentalize that stuff isn't all bad. Like, I think, when you're freaking out about something, it is a nice skill to have, to be able to tell yourself, like, maybe we've freaked out about this enough and it's time to do another thing, or something that feels good, or something that makes us happy. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I compartmentalize too much, but I think that, like, it's a good skill to have, a little bit of. If that makes sense. Yeah.
By the way, though, it's not a criticism. If you, I repressed my feelings for a long time, but then I got weird, and so not like I was like sleepwalking. It wasn't like Hereditary or something like that. I wasn't like dousing people in paint thinner in my sleep, and then I like, ugh. But I definitely just like had shut down to kind of like not deal with things.
You were kind of hunched in the corner of your ceiling, though, right? You could like crawl up the side of the wall and kind of hunch in the corner of the ceiling, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not like I'm
you have core strength.
Not do that. Yeah,
no, you got to do that.
Why am I doing Pilates if not to?
Thank you. Yeah,
but no, I'm kind of curious. Like, how did you seemed like you processed this as a kid in a way, like you didn't repress it, but you did turn it into a kind of like it was your role in your family in some way. Does that am I articulating that correctly?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think to kind of sum it up, I think that, like, while, things were, I had a, pretty happy, safe, secure childhood, like, there were turbulent times around money stuff, around having a kind of insane, undependable dad who would do weird, unpredictable things. So I think the little role that I took was like, hey, I'll do a joke. I'll do something funny. That's okay. I'm fine. Like, it's cool. We'll just, I was that guy in the family. And so I think that, I I learned a lot of that, and have had to kind of unlearn it a little bit. Because, it's okay to be sad sometimes. It's okay to, tell your loved ones that you need help or that you're worried. So yeah, that was some stuff that I had to learn.
Yeah. What was going on with your dad?
Sure. He's just like, he was weird and unpredictable, and like when he and my mom got divorced when I was like 12 or 13, and he just kind of like took off and we only heard from him periodically, and it was always kind of a mystery where he would be contacting us from a lot of other states, doing a lot of weird jobs, like, oh, he's on a pot farm in Hawaii now. Oh, he's working for an God, what was one of them? He was working for an infomercial company in Nevada for a while, and we would kind of just get these weirdo little updates, either like from his family or something else. We're like, oh yeah, what's what's that up to these days? And so yeah, I think he maybe had some undiagnosed things going on, and so would make a lot of wacky financial decisions. I say wacky. They were dangerous and irresponsible, but let's say wacky. Wacky financial decisions, and he would, disappear for a while. I think he had a drinking problem. So I think that, my mom had to be ultra even keeled and dependable to make up for that. And she was, oh boy. So she is a very dependable, loving, there for you person. And I think because she is that person, but also had to be because the other guy was so chaotic. So anyway.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's really difficult. Were you aware of what was going on around 12 and 13? Did you know how it was happening, or was it all just he was just gone and then you would get these dispatches from Wackyville?
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, it was always presented to us like Dad's at work. Dad is working a lot. And so it's why isn't Dad here? Well, he's working. And I think that's something that I had to investigate a little bit in therapy and adulthood is are men just supposed to be at work all the time? It's no. And also he wasn't. He was, he was in jail because he got caught drunk driving. He was in jail for, it's stuff like that. So I think that it was always presented to us Dad's at work. But I think later in life, I'm oh, he wasn't. He was off doing some weird thing. And I think that when they got divorced and he kind of disappeared, I think my narrative was just when families get divorced, the dad goes somewhere, it's no, he doesn't always. Sometimes they, stay close and stay involved in their family, and people co-parent, and there's healthy ways to get a divorce. And so I think I thought that's just how things are. That's what the dad does. And I know now that it is not how things always have to be.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Going back to the meta thing a little bit too.
Sure.
It's that a lot of meta stuff confused me when I was younger because I would see this same person, even just seeing the same actor in different things.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I couldn't fully put these things together because I didn't understand how that someone could represent something else. That they could appear in different things or as themselves, or even as themselves was sometimes a presentation that day, right? And it was a very confusing aspect of culture for a while. And it's the same thing, when there's just stuff that is happening to you or your family and you have no other reference point. You're just I guess this is how things are.
Yes, this is how. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it took me a while, but I think I've I've been investigating that stuff, recently in my life, and kind of figuring out, how it led to my various quirks.
Was your dad
my various wacky quirks?
Was he unreliable when your parents were still together?
Yeah, it was. So he was always kind of. You never knew when he was going to show up. You kind of never knew when he was going to come home. Will he be at the school play or baseball game or whatever? Maybe, probably not. So I think that it was, even when they were together. And I think he was probably a very hard dude to be married to, just because he was so chaotic and all over the place. Made a lot of weird purchases. Came home one day with a, Cruella DeVille's car
in the cartoon, the 101.
Yeah, in 101 Dalmatians. He came home with that one day.
Wait, with the car,
Yeah.
that kind of car.
That kind of car. Like
I thought you were
little...
going to say like toy version of the car.
Yeah, with driving the car, and just, my mom was like, "Oh, he didn't tell me he was going to purchase a wacky Jay Leno car." And yeah, had bought a lot of weird art that was probably too expensive. So I think in manic states would buy a lot of weird stuff, leading to a little bit of financial panic in the family and stuff like that. So
what happens in those panic periods? Does your mom have to get another job? What is going on? Or do you have to return this Cruella de Vil car?
Yeah, I think eventually the Cruella de Vil car had to get returned. The Napoleon painting had to get returned. But yeah, I think my mom didn't work for the first, when we were kids. But yeah, maybe in sixth grade or something, she went back to work. She was a nurse for her whole life and just went back to nursing, and had a pretty great career in it. She was a lactation consultant until she retired, and I think really liked it and made a lot of difference and stuff like that. So yeah, she was, a very smart person who knew everything about medicine and always was a great, a great person to know when a kid is sick. And I remember we would watch House together sometimes. Remember House? Mm-hmm. She could call the medical mystery 20 minutes into House. She's like, here's what it is. And then it would always be that. So yeah, she's an impressive lady.
Has she given you any good lactating tips?
Oh yeah. Oh, you should see these tits squirt milk, man.
Yeah, I'm lactating at an advanced level thanks to my mom.
That's right. Yeah, it's when you grow up with a pro in the house, you're going to excel.
How did they meet in the first place?
They met at a hospital. She was a nurse and he was an orderly.
Ooh, orderly.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about orderlies besides in the 80s, the movie Disorderlies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty hilarious situation. If the movie is any indication, being an orderly is pretty funny.
Is that what he wanted to... Did your dad have ambitions?
Yeah, I think he had artistic ambitions that he never moved on. I vaguely remember him telling me once that he wanted to be a songwriter. He was never a musical guy, did not play any instruments from what I remember, but I think had this dream of being the Bernie Taupins to someone's Elton John. And he did love Elton John. That was always on around the house. So I think that Elton Bernie relationship was one he really loved, and because I think Elton John wrote the music, Bernie Taupin wrote the lyrics, and I think that he maybe in his wildest dreams wanted to do that. So yeah, I definitely when I think of that, feel lucky that I get to do creative stuff for a living, because I think a lot of people want to and don't, and maybe it's part of why they're insane.
Did he write lyrics? Sure.
That I know. I don't know that he ever wrote. I never read anything he wrote. But yeah, I never did. He never showed it to us, or my mom never said, "Oh, your father's got a notebook of poems or something." But but maybe I don't know. Maybe
there wasn't a shoebox of scraps of paper with Rocket Man and then different variations on Subway Man ?
Yeah. Satellite Man? Silver Brick Road? I don't know. Dad, I think you got to go one step further. Maybe this is why it didn't happen for you. I don't know.
After he left, how did the household change? Did you feel any sense of relief?
Oh, totally. It was better. Much better. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think they thought a lot, and I could tell it psychologically wore on my mom. So yeah, I think when obviously it would have been better if he would have stuck around more and been a part of our lives and stuff in some way, but also it was a huge psychological unburdening, and I think better for everybody.
Yeah. Okay, now here's the real question. How did you change? Not just the relief of not seeing your mom so stressed out, but were there, and obviously you said 12, 13, so you're already changing. This is puberty is hitting. Yeah. So you're changing as a person anyway, but do you think this carried with it some kind of existential changes outside of just that kind of like lack of stress for you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I just in general remember being less stressed, but also like, and I think this, this was instilled in me pretty early, but like being kind of fixated on wanting to be dependable. And I think, now that manifests in like kind of panicking when I'm late or, not returning an email the second I get it. Yeah, so I think I did become pretty like fixated on being dependable, which is something I have not been in my life. But I think that more often than not, like I panic when I think that I'm not being dependable.
Did you have to parent at all when you were younger? Did you after your dad left, did you have to kind of like join your mother in adulthood or were you still a kid at that, a quote unquote kid conceptually?
So I had and have a little sister who is like very functional and competent and does not need shit. Is a very like smart, capable person and always has been. So it's not like, oh, I've got this little sibling who is like experiencing, turbulence. Like she was always pretty, self-reliant and smart and got good grades and was fine. So yeah, I didn't like have to, I didn't feel like I had to wrangle her. She was always fine. And get my mom like was a super talented person who had a good job. So like she was fine. So yeah, like luckily I didn't feel like the family was falling apart. So I think mainly where that like responsibility manifested was like needing to, feeling like I had to cheer people up when they were bummed. So I think that's where, but yeah, I never felt like I had to, get a job and start contributing or, whatever. I think that like my mom and sister are both and were both always like fine in handling their shit. So
outside of like having that role because you felt like it was needed in your family, the role of like, I'm going to say jester, but like,
Jester's, yes, the clown.
I get it,
yeah,
that was me too. I mean, not with my family, but just like in general, like wanting to like make people laugh in school. Like, yeah. So outside of that, was there something appealing about that role to you that also was enjoyable, or was it purely a like, I gotta, get my top hat and cane out for my family?
Yeah. I mean, I like, this is something that I've investigated, and I know that there is like an emotional reason that I like to do funny stuff, but also, I don't know, maybe we as a culture also don't recognize that being funny is fun.
Yeah.
And we're not always just sad clowns with pain on the inside. I mean, I know that, everybody is. Like, everyone has it, right? And I think that, maybe podcasting has something to do with this. I don't know. There's this feeling of, like, now we need to imbue all comedy with this is a sad clown who's dying inside. And, like, yeah, but also like it's fun to be funny and it's fun to be silly, and like I think even if I like to think that even if I had a hyper functional family that was not weird in the way that mine was weird, I still would like to make jokes and be creative and stuff like that. I don't think it's all just like, we're dying inside and the clown cries himself to sleep at night. Like,
sure.
I think that comedy is fun and it's fun to make people laugh and it's fun to be creative with people. So, I think that it's both. It's both. I think that like it was something I was kind of good at, so I used it to cope, but also it's fun to be dumb and silly with your friends, and it's great when you can make a living from it.
Yeah. I think though, here's the thing.
Sure.
I think you need these two sides. And
Yeah.
because I was just talking to, do you know Mike Sweeney? He used to be the head writer at Conan, and he is lots of other stuff. But
Yeah.
that was like, yeah. We were just talking on the show, and I was saying like he had a very kind of traumatic childhood. And there's yes, on one hand, being funny and making jokes is a fun thing. On another hand, it can be a coping mechanism.
Sure.
In certain kinds of contexts. But there has to be something that makes you want to just not be the funny guy in your friend circle or at your office and want to share it with the world. There has to be something. I wonder, and I don't think I've really put it together before this, but you need both. You need the like sad clown and happy clown kissing each other. Like you need.
Yes, the clowns must kiss.
Yes.
And if the clowns want to go further, that's cool too.
Hey, yeah, no, I'm not going to kink
As long
shame
as
any
both clowns are into it.
Yeah. But I think there's something, because you have to have, like, it can't just be like a dour, like, it almost seems like Jerry Seinfeld is just like, it is just like a Kantian moral duty for him to write jokes. It doesn't feel like he is having fun sometimes when you hear him interviewed or talk about it.
Yes, it's a tick. It's an involuntary tick of him to make jokes. Yeah. And that's something that I kind of had to learn. I think that I both felt like I had to make jokes and liked making jokes. So I think that like in my life, I've been a real hyper bit guy, and I've tried to like look at that and go, okay, like sometimes you can just like talk about your day and God forbid ask someone a question about themselves and not feel like you always have to be tap dancing for stuff. Like it's fun and you can do it. And certainly when you're with other comedy people, it's a blast, but like, fucking cool out and just ask someone if they know any good restaurants, Well,
wait, when did you start to examine that? Or what led to you wanting to even get into therapy in the first place, I suppose?
Oh, I think I just had like a rough year. I think I had like some work shit fall apart, and I think I had a crummy relationship that was making me miserable, and like just I had and was starting to just have friends who casually talked about like, oh yeah, I go to therapy, or like, oh, I have therapy today, and I think that like that made it okay. And I know that like, our set of people, do we talk about therapy too much? I don't know. Maybe we do. But I do think people kind of casually talking about it like it is a normal thing helps someone who is maybe worried about going because they think it's weird or something. So yeah, I think I just like was having a fucking bad year, and then like enough people said something to me, just like about their own therapy experience that made me want to get into it. And I think I found a worried about money guy over here. I think I just found out that I was close to a community clinic where you could do it for cheap, because I think probably part of my work anxiety was maybe I was losing a health plan that would have made it cheaper. So yeah, I think I found a financial way to do it, and was just kind of at the end of my rope. So
Sliding scale is our savior.
Yeah, sliding scale. You love it.
Yeah. So when did you form any kind of ambition then? And I'm going to assume that the ambition was always something like this, but actually let me start with this.
Sure.
What was the original ambition? Was it to do what you're doing now? Writer, performer, raconteur.
Yes, it was always. Listen, I wanted to be a raconteur from a young child. I had posters of my favorite raconteurs up on my wall. So here's something interesting about Orange County that maybe not a lot of folks realize. Or here's something about my experience with Orange County, anyways. It is close to LA, about an hour away, but I did not know anyone in the entertainment industry or even an adult who was creative. Like, I didn't know community theater people. I didn't know like dads who had a garage band. Like, just like the idea of a creative adult was really foreign to me. Mm-hmm. And I think that like the closest thing I saw was like theater teachers, like my junior high and high school drama teachers. I'm like, oh, here's a creative adult. Here's something you could do. So I think I thought that's what I would be growing up. I think I thought I would be like a camp counselor. I didn't know how much money anybody made. Maybe there are professional camp counselors at 40, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
There were at my JCC day camp, there were older folks who ran the thing.
Yeah. So I think I thought I would do something like that. And then very young, I thought I would be a dinosaur scientist. But once I moved
that because of Jurassic Park?
I think I was a dinosaur kid pre-Jurassic Park. And when Jurassic Park came out, I was the kid who said, technically it should be called Cretaceous Park because none of those dinosaurs existed in the Jurassic period. There's the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous, and most of those dinosaurs are from the Cretaceous period. Yeah, I was a real piece of shit.
No, I get it. I was a dinosaur kid too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Dana Gould talks about monster kids, and I'm just like, oh, I think I was a dinosaur kid.
There's dinosaur kids, there's truck kids, there's horse kids. Yeah, a lot of different kinds of kids out there. And so, yeah, I think it wasn't until I got to college that I first started meeting creative adults. Not to brag, and I know no one would guess this about me, but I was on the college improv team. Yeah. I contain multitudes. Who was
it long form or comedy sports?
It was comedy sports. So games, can we get a new choice? Here's a bag of funny hats. Give me a funny profession and your favorite character on The Simpsons, we would say. And we were amazing. No, we were probably terrible. But because I had kind of gotten into comedy that way, we did some comedy festivals, and with my podcast partner Jesse Thorne, we had a little college radio show, and we would interview. I think we literally interviewed Dana Gould. I think Dana Gould called in and talked about writing for The Simpsons or whatever. So yeah, I think in that way I kind of started to meet creative professionals and started to think okay, yeah, I could maybe, I don't know, maybe I could. So yeah, then I think through that I kind of learned about the professional side of it, and then kind of by the time I graduated college, I kind of made up my mind that yeah, I'm going to move to LA and give it a go.
So when you were going
try and become the raconteur I always dreamed I would be.
When you were going to college, did you have any ambition?
Yeah, I mean, I am, again, ways in which I am lucky. I never felt weird about trying creative stuff. I was a drama kid, and got to college and immediately wanted to be on the improv team. I always felt supported to try a creative thing. I never, I feel you hear that story a lot, people who are take off the funny wig and pick up the football. I never got any of that. Thank God. I was always supported. So I think I always liked to do creative stuff because it was fun. So yeah, I think it took me a while to realize how you make a job out of it. Perhaps I'm still figuring that out, but, yeah, I think I always thought I could try it and always thought I should try it. So yeah, I think I was lucky in that way. Hey, maybe a little straight white male privilege going on here, but I always felt like I should do it. And yeah, I think, that confidence helped me.
But what about the financial instability of this profession?
Yeah.
Because that to me is a kind of, if you're coming from financial instability,
right,
it seems risky to go into something that is rife with financial instability unless you knew that it was already there and you're just well, it feels familiar. Might as well just go do this anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think so. I think I was not prepared for how financially unstable it would be. And speaking of things that have gotten worse, the entertainment industry. I think so. So I think I was maybe looking at it with rose-colored glasses. I think I thought that okay, well, I'll start out as a PA, and then I'll probably be a writer by the end of the year, and then I'll be and then maybe I'll just write for Conan for the rest of my life. So I think I thought it was going to be easier than it was. And yeah, and I'm pretty lucky that I have, I've been been able to like work, but like I've never had that. I've written for Conan for 10 years stability, which I know maybe most people don't have these days in the biz, but because shows are so short now and get canceled so often. But yeah, I think at the time I feel like I saw a roadmap for myself and didn't realize how up and down it would be.
Okay. So you were kind of getting into it because I was the same way. I just didn't, coming from Pennsylvania, I had no ideas. I was thinking earlier when you were talking about Orange County, I'm like, oh, it seems like that's the New Jersey of California.
Yeah, I know. It is not, but I think that is how maybe it's viewed from the outside.
Because, you're close enough that you're like, well, I guess this is a possibility for me.
Right.
But far enough away to not know anything. And in pre-internet days, or at least in the internet the way it is now days, you can't just like Google, how do I get a writing job? And then you get, I didn't even know what the WG was. I didn't even know what the WGA was until I got a writing job.
Right. You're like, who do I have to give $8,000 to? What? If I get screeners, then yeah, it seems fine.
Oh yeah, 100%. The screeners are worth the screen, especially when you're getting screeners for the streaming services that you're already subscribed to. And then you just
love getting those Netflix awards DVDs in the mail, and then feeling like you have to properly destroy them.
Mm-hmm. Or give them to your parents. But
oh yeah, that's always fun.
That's the only perk. That's the only time my parents, I think, have any kind of like pride in what I'm doing. They're like, oh, we get to see this movie before it's in the theaters. Okay.
Yeah. You can watch Oppenheimer at home early. Oh my gosh. Well, the son of ours. We're so proud.
But when I was going to New York, I just didn't have any idea of how this stuff worked. I think that protected me.
Totally.
I think that gave me some kind of, what's the cushion between your brain and your skull? Whatever that.
that dissonance. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I feel like that is something that maybe I ignored, or that people like aren't super forthcoming with in like interviews or when you talk to them about it. But like fucking everybody will just have like tough ass years where they don't really work. And yeah, I think, when you as a kid, when you like read interviews or you watch people on talk shows, you are watching the like most successful 0.5% of person. And like there were so few interviews with like working creative people. And so, yeah, I think I walked into it with a weird optimism that didn't end up being true. And again, I'm lucky and have gotten to do a lot of fun things, but like, yeah, I think I just wasn't prepared for like how fucking tough getting a job can be, and how tough holding on to a job can be, and like how so much shit that you think is about to happen will just fall apart for some weird reason that you have no control over. And yeah, I think that cannot be said enough to incoming creative people, is like, yes, this can be really wonderful and fun, but like fucking get ready. Like get ready for tons of disappointments, get ready for slow periods, no matter how talented you are. Like they'll just be fucking, and it's not your fault, and it's this weird other shit, and it's because Discovery is buying Warner Brothers, and everyone just got fired over there. And so no one knows you now. So like, yeah, it's just like, that is something that I didn't feel like I had a handle on.
Yeah. Are you able to feel the joy though from when you do cool things, and you do a lot of really cool stuff? Mm-hmm. Can you feel it, or is it just like, or is it, because I've seen a lot of people, and I've had to try to, I don't even know how to say it, but I've seen a lot of people who like, they're just dead, and not because they're like dead inside because of this industry, but because like too many good things have fallen apart for them.
Right.
And so when good things happen to them, they just like kind of like deaden themselves so they can't feel it. But are you able to feel happiness? Like, you get your own comic published, or even like this show, or any of the stuff that I do, like when an episode comes out, I'm like, this is me. I got to do this.
Yeah,
and it
sure.
does feel good. Can you feel that, or is it all just worry?
Yes, I do think I do pride myself on my happiness nerves still working.
Okay.
the happiness synapses will still fire in my brain when something cool happens. Yeah, and I think that like in a weird way, like all this strike shit that's been going on in the year of our Lord 2023, where we're recording this podcast, like has really made me realize that like, has really hammered home that like the financial instability shit happens to everyone. And when something happens, it is as a result of your hard work and talent, but also you're lucky. Like a lot of hardworking, super talented people just fucking like have shit fall apart all the time. So like when something happens, like you have a successful podcast that runs for a long time, or you publish a book or a comic or get to write an episode of TV, like it's really cool. And it's like unlikely that it happened just numbers wise, you know? Again, patting yourself on the back for your hard work and talent, but also just like, you know, it's a crapshoot and the odds are not in your favor. So like when something like works or something comes out that you're proud of and that you like, it's a cool feeling. And making stuff is fun. Like making stuff with people is fun. And I love the like, you know, it's something I think that folks are really fighting for in this labor shit is like, or at least on the writing side anyways, is like the writer's room. Like, let's preserve that. It's fun. It works. Yes, obviously there are megamaniacal head writers who make people's lives miserable, but like when that shit is working, it's so much fun. It's great to make something with other cool, smart people. And I think that's, you know, podcasting is a little piece of that. Like you get to talk to somebody who is cool and funny and you get to make each other laugh and it's great and it's a connection. So yeah, I do think I am lucky in the sense that despite the fact that I have had my disappointments and letdowns and holy shit, can you believe this fell apart? Like the fun part of it is still fun. And I think that's what keeps me here and trying to do it because the fun shit is fucking great. It really is.
Yeah, the sad clown and the happy clown kissing in a field of 4-leaf clovers. There's
beautiful.
There we figured out. It's the end of the show. We figured out the full metaphor.
It's today the day we try 69ing, says the happy clown to the sad clown. It's the ultimate the ultimate symbol of how we work together to create the creative mind.
Jordan, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, man. This has been such a fun chat. This is great.
Of course. It was a blast to talk to you. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye, oh, 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 bye.